This is Talk Star Wars, the official podcast of talkstarwars.co.uk. Hello everyone, welcome back to Talk Star Wars. I'm Mark.
I'm Stephen.
And I'm Rob.
And hopefully Paul will be joining us a little bit later. We've had all sorts of technical issues this evening from the Facebook Live session on. It's been an absolute nightmare. So let's hope we can get this nailed in one go tonight.
What happened with the Facebook Live session?
I was trying a new setup tonight, Rob.
Right.
I was trying to...
Say no more.
Yeah, what? And I put it in the Facebook group. I said, I'm going to do a new setup. This can't go wrong, can it? And of course, it went wrong straight out the gate. So,
of course,
what I ended up doing was I normally film it on my phone, upload it to Facebook, then I download it and I edit and I comp in all the comments, and it's too much work. So what I thought tonight I would do was link an iPad to my Mac and record the screen as a video, and then it has all the comments and questions on it. So I've just got one video file to deal with.
I think I know what you're about to say.
That didn't work.
Well, yeah, I gathered that much.
It didn't work in such glorious fashion. So what I did was I did exactly the same thing, but with my iPhone, which hadn't worked previously, but for some reason did work tonight perfectly. So I'm going to do that from now on. So I've got a really lovely video file to work with for this week's Facebook Live. Okay. But it took a while to get there. And then Steve and I had no end of problems. And then when you tried to join the call, we had no end of problems. Anyway.
Yeah, I have all sorts of problems.
So basically, it was all Rob's fault.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
And I'm gonna say first world problems, of course, because it ain't important.
It'd always be worse.
It could always be very, very much worse. All right,
we're lucky to have iPad Pros. Some people in Africa are still on iPad Airs.
They're on iPad 2s, like some sort of...
What a cogent point. Let's take a moment. Let's take a moment to think about those people that are still on iPad Airs.
Moment of silence for the iPad 1 crowd.
I'm spilling beer on the floor now as we speak. All right, before we get started tonight, we'd like to welcome the San Diego Sabres radio podcast to the Star Wars Commonwealth, the latest show to join our network. So welcome to the family, guys. They are great. They're already full on. Yeah,
I'm enjoying their show, actually. I listened to it the other day.
And the banter in the Twitter group as well. Yes. And the fact that like the next day they'd sent through their updated website and it had the Commonwealth all over it. So really nice to see them jumping in with both feet. So glad to have you aboard, chaps. And also we've got some other thanks we really want to get to listener comms pretty damn quickly tonight. So we're going to give some other thanks to listeners. So Jared Peppard and Mark Airy like the Facebook page today. Now, Mark, as we know, is part of the fittings around here. He's the co-host of the Toy Box and the host of the Toy Run podcasts. But he's just set up a new Facebook account and he used that to like the Facebook page. So thank you for that.
Yep.
And a little bit of announcement quickly. Talk Star Wars is now on TuneIn Radio. So you can now find us on Amazon Alexa. So on Echo, Echo Dot, Fire TV and the Fire tablets and all of that wonderful stuff. If you just ask Alexa for us, I'm sure at one point it will work. At the moment, it's not. It's being successful about half the time for me. But we're getting there.
Oh my! When you ask for Rob.
Yeah, it does work half the time. But we are definitely on there. I've been on the site. The site's a beta, so it will all come out in the wash, I'm sure.
What do you mean beta?
Whatever. Thanks to Lucas Rocker, Serban Kapararu, Black Eyed Lily, all of you guys subscribed to the YouTube channel this week. I can't thank you enough. That really did jump up in numbers this week. Not to your level, Steve, but I put
more
videos...
than my level.
For the dizzying 400 heights.
Yeah. I put
Steve, don't knock it, mate. I got 52. All right, cry me a river.
I put videos out every day this week, and it's really helped sort of grow. I mean, one of those videos was the same thing in 3 different formats, but it was it appeals to a different audience each one, I think. So it's definitely helping getting content out there.
Indeed.
All right. In the interest of speeding things along, because we've got a lot on our plate this evening.
Thanks for listening to Talk Star Wars. Good night, everybody.
Yeah. See you next week, everyone. Reviews. We didn't get any reviews this week, so head to iTunes, leave 5-star review, write whatever you want in there and we'll read it. We call that the Ron Burgundy policy, as long as it's clean and it's 5 stars. Have a bit of fun with that. If you listen to the previous episodes, you'll know how mental that can get. And suddenly we're in listener comms. Oh, That's a rate. I don't think I've ever done that fast before.
No.
All right, if you want to email us, you can email us your written questions or email us an MP3 and we'll use it as a voicemail on the show. Send that to talkstarwarsinfo@gmail.com and we will deal with the rest for you. So let's start with this tweet we had this week. I'll take this one and then you guys can do the heavy lifting.
Okay.
So Ross Williamson at Totterex on Twitter, great name, which is there's a little picture of a Lego Max Rebo as his Twitter icon.
Nice.
He sent this in last week, but we were at Full Tilt Boogie when this come through, so I didn't have a chance to segue the question in. So he sent us a question. If you guys had an audience with Lucas and you each had one question to ask about the franchise, what would it be and why? Now, if you guys want to think about your answers, I have mine because I've had this question for a week, so I had time to think about it.
Okay.
I can go if you like. I would, if I had an audience with Uncle George, I would ask him when he was writing the scene for Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back, the scene between Vader and Palpatine, I would ask if the concept of the Sith was fully formed at that point. And so did Palpatine know about Luke, and was the Ruler 2 already in George's mind, and was it really, because the way it reads to me now is that Palpatine had designs on using Luke to overpower Vader, and Vader obviously had Luke in his mind for his coup de grace and getting rid of the Emperor. And I wonder if that stuff was all on the page when George wrote that scene, because as we know, George has been a bit fast and loose with this canon over the years, and he seems to be retooling it every time he comes back with something new. And I'm not sure that it was, like Anakin wasn't really Luke's father at the start, or Darth Vader wasn't really Anakin at the start. That sort of stuff evolved gradually. So that would be the kind of thing that
stole my question.
Is that where you would have gone?
Well, kind of.
What was your thinking then, Steve?
That's pretty much it. I mean, I was going to say how much in Empire was retconned to match A New Hope, particularly with regards to the family and Luke and his sister and stuff like that. So I'll change mine now. My question would be about the franchise. If you could change the whole prequels franchise, what would it be and why? That'd be my question.
Ask him if he would change it.
Yeah, well, what would he do differently in relation to the prequels?
He'd probably give us 2 Jar Jars, as they have that for a year's worth of abuse.
Yeah.
Rob?
I don't know, to be honest.
So afraid I'd lost you then.
No.
I don't know, to be honest. I've never heard those words come out of your mouth.
How would your version of Episode 7 have opened?
Ah, yeah, good one.
That is a good question.
With a kid shouting yippee, no doubt. I know.
On a pod, midway through a pod race.
Yeah.
On Malastair. I'd have watched that.
A gopher coming up out of a
would
little sand
he
mound
have
hill.
killed Han off? That would be a good question.
Would you? Yeah, well, that's a good one.
That is a very good question.
Would you have killed Han off?
Yeah, because we know that he obviously shied away from that in the original trilogy, didn't he? So maybe Han wouldn't have bought the farm in his version of Force Awakens. I know his idea was Anakin's grandchildren were going to be a lot younger than Kylo Ren is. So
yeah, it seemed like it was about them kind of coming up rather than already being adults.
Exactly, yeah. Which I'm sure we'll see at some point in more detail. But so Ross, I'm so sorry that took us a week to get to. Ross and I have interacted a couple of times on Twitter this week. He's a very insightful guy. So I'm glad I could get his question onto the show. Sorry Paul's not around to give you his answer. Hopefully he'll jump in later. We got a message from Dan Solo. Who would like to take Dan's question this week?
Go on, Steve.
All right, mate.
Go for it, son.
Hi, Mark. Hi, Mark, and the rest of the gang at Talk Star Wars. I'm Dan Solo at Star Wars Tucker, and my question is about the fate of Princess Leia in The Last Jedi and Episode 9. I've not really got involved in the conversation to date, but I'm finally biting, and something I feel may work is as follows. Open brackets, please note, I'm in the Kylo Ren redemption camp. I feel if Vader can be redeemed, then Kylo can too, close brackets.
Here.
Throughout the next movie, Luke and Rey go after Snoke and Leia goes after Kylo. Leia finds herself in impending peril by the end of The Last Jedi, and Kylo steps in to rescue her. It's the final twist of the film, if you like. It's the redemption of Kylo. It's the completion of the story arc for Leia by assisting her son in returning to the light, and it leaves enough open questions going forward over how all this will all work. If what they are saying is true and pen hasn't even been put to paper yet on episode 9, then the story could pick up sometime later. Leia may have been laid to rest in this time, and the movie could start with a funeral and celebration of her life. Maybe Kylo will start what his grandfather finished by turning to the dark side, returning to the light, and then ultimately balancing the Force by destroying the First Order. For me, this answers the question of Carrie being wrapped for The Last Jedi some time ago. No involvement in episode 9 and an honoured departure from the saga. I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts. Have a great show. Cheers, Dan Solo. So, could Leia redeem Ben Solo before dying at the end of The Last Jedi, with episode 9 picking up the story at Leia's funeral? Thoughts?
What do you think, Rob?
I don't know. Possibly. It feels a bit. I sort of get where he's coming from. I think part of the reason I do is because, we've got two defined on-screen villains already in Snoke and Kylo, which we didn't have in New Hope. Obviously, we had Tarkin, but he was already sort of vanquished by the end of A New Hope. So we, as far as we knew, at the end of New Hope, Vader was the only big bad, and you'd heard him mention the Emperor, but you didn't know if you were ever going to see him. So we go into Empire, and then we get a second baddie, and then from there we know that in the third film that's what the payoff's going to be. But actually, with this one, we go into episode 8 with two already known quantities to a degree. We don't know much about, either of them really, but we know more about Ben than Snoke. But we don't know much about them, but we've got two. So unless they're going to draw it out in episode 8 by not really having any sort of payoff in terms of anybody dying or caught or whatever, then it's going to be tricky to hold. I don't know, it seems like it's going to be tricky to hold that interest.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think to have this happen in 8 is too soon. To have, I like the idea of Leia helping save her son. I think they set that up beautifully with Han's death and the way she felt that pain, the way she felt the way I interpret it, the last of Ben Solo die inside Kylo Ren. It would be beautiful to see her do the saving like Luke did with their father, but her saving her son would have huge poetic, sort of dramatic poetry. But I think doing it in The Last Jedi is too soon because you've got a whole other chapter there. Then
it'd be a waste of Kylo. It would be a waste.
And what's he going to do? Turn to the light and then go, all right, now let's all go together. Let's team up and go and get Snoke. Yeah, I don't like that. I'd rather see him redeemed at the end through self-sacrifice. It makes more sense to me if he's responsible for Carrie's death in 8. That's a terrible thing to say. If he's responsible for Leia's death in 8, those characters are almost inseparable to me. I could see that Kylo being responsible for his mother's death as well, and then that plunging him even further into darkness, which would mean Rey would have to save him in 9, which is the way I think it's been going. But what about you, Steve?
I think you're both right. I think we haven't plunged the depths of Kylo yet, and also it would cast nasturtiums on the death of Han if he turned good that quick. It'd be like, he wasn't that bad in the first place.
Sorry. Did you say nasturtiums?
Yeah, it's a running joke. I always say nasturtiums.
Okay, fine. Instead of just as long as you know that's not a word. That's okay.
I know it's a flower. Don't worry.
I thought it was a fish.
It might be. It would make you think, he wasn't that bad then. Why did he kill Han if he was that close to the light in the first place? Because to come back so quickly would make it a bit fuller.
That's a really good point. I hadn't even thought of it from that point of view of, he was on the precipice and he sort of taken a step over the edge, and it seems like he just goes, oh, never mind, my bad. I was a bit off balance.
Exactly. And also, I think we're in for a funeral at the start of 8. I don't think the second funeral at the start of 9 is going to go down. It's a bit like the second Death Star.
Do you think it's going to be a funeral that open to film then?
I think. Well, we've already seen her in her garb, haven't we?
That's what we're made to understand. Yeah.
I think the more concrete thing is her comments at Comic-Con, not Comic-Con, at Celebration London, where she said about Han's funeral, and she had to sort of. I think Warwick shut that down pretty quickly in that panel.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, she did seem to let slip that there would be a funeral. So another funeral in 9 would probably be overkill.
And not to mention the fact that it's a bit close to home, a funeral of the actress. Yeah. You know, the character played by the actress.
Yeah, but it's worth bearing in mind that's nearly 2 years away now.
Yeah, and what Paul was saying last week, and I agree with him. It would be a beautiful thing to see both off in style. To sort of send Leia off in a loving way is also a fitting tribute to Carrie from us, the fans. But I can't see them treading that route twice if we're going to get Han's funeral. I can't see him wanting to do that again. But what Dan's question does here, which is really frustrating, is it does set up something wonderful that can't happen now. The end of episode 9 should be Leia saving her son. That's what Dan's question has done now.
Yeah. But why not? Look, things are going to settle down. They already have. And it's obviously a very contentious issue. And a beautiful actress or actor passes away. And you can't start talking about some work of fiction when actually there's some serious stuff going on and it's not appropriate.
Yeah.
But as things calm down, that family has already said she is Princess Leia. I don't think they'll have a problem with them continue. Why does Princess Leia have to die? Just because the wonderful Carrie Fisher has. Carrie Fisher wouldn't want that. Let's bring her back. Let's keep her alive throughout the whole saga and make her, Carrie Fisher, live on in Leia forever. What's wrong with that? The family would love it, and so would Carrie.
Yeah, and so would we as the fans. And I think we know that there are ways for them to do it, but they've said that they're not going to. Colin Trevorrow has said...
I'm wondering whether it will calm down. That,
I don't think so. I think they've laid their case out quite clearly for us not to expect that now. So it's over for that character, and now it's just the question of how and what are the specifics of that transition. And this Dan's idea is wonderful, and I don't think we're going to get it. And if we do, I think it will rob Kylo of his arc, because that should span the trilogy and not just 2 films. Because, like you said,
it's a good
Steve,
question, though. Very, very good question.
It undercuts the death of Han with nasturtiums, apparently. All right, Dan. Thank you very much for your question, which is now going to plague me forever. That I'm not going to see that on screen. All right, I'm going to take Ryan's question, which is a very quick comment from our YouTube channel. He was listening to last week's show. And he says, this is Ryan Bullock from YouTube. How would you guys feel if they recast Carrie Fisher's daughter to play Princess Leia? I'm sure they could pull off some movie magic to make her look just like her mum. Thoughts?
Love it. I would love it, personally. That's me done.
I'm not a fan.
No.
I'm a fundamentalist on the non-recast. It doesn't matter who it is.
No, but it's only for motion cap,
if you're going to do it, then she's probably the best pick.
Yeah.
But I don't want them to do it. So.
Yeah, I think earlier this week I put something in the Facebook page. There might have been the VIP group, actually. It was the video clip of Billy Lord paying tribute to her mum. And I put it in there and said, like, if you want a secret cry, watch this, because I'd seen it a couple of times and it always moves me near to tears. But she did the Princess Leia appeal message to Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I thought she crushed it. I thought she did a really good job. And I was looking at her thinking, you can just... And she very deliberately chosen her dress to look like Leia's gown in A New Hope. So if you kind of squint a little bit and she's in there, it's really eerie. I could see this working in a way.
Well, it would be mocap and voice, wouldn't it? Nothing else. I mean, they would CGI the face on. I'm assuming from this tweet, this is what the idea is.
Yeah.
What he's suggesting, yeah.
Yeah, well, I agree with that. I think that's fantastic. I know, it is contentious.
I think it's a nice idea. I think it's a really, if they were going to do it, I prefer they did that than go elsewhere and get somebody that you have to suspend your disbelief in order to buy
definitely.
into.
And also, he says the words there, the two magic words in there, movie magic. People watch movies to escape real life. Real life, Carrie Fisher's died. I don't want to know about it, continuously be reminded of it during the rest of the trilogy. If they bring her back and say, actually, we're never going to kill her off, we'll tell you now, we're never going to kill her off. She is Star Wars. I'd actually have a lot more faith in art, in works of fiction, in the ability to have movie magic and all the rest of it than I do at the moment, which is like, oh, woe is us, let's wallow in it. Well, I don't think she would have wanted that.
Brace yourself, mate, because I'm reasonably sure there's no way this will happen.
Wow, I know, but I've kind of already made peace with that anyway. Yeah, so and I don't want to do a disservice or dishonour Carrie Fisher at all by saying that. Well, I want her to live forever.
The other thing, I understand that, but I mean, the other thing to keep in mind as well is, we all sat there at Celebration and we saw George Lucas say that Leia was Carrie, and we were just like, yeah, right on. And now people are saying, oh, but I'd take somebody else's Leia. But make your mind up.
Yeah. I think that we've all been against the recast, haven't we, from day one here on Talk Star Wars. I'm
not a fan.
I'm not a fan. I wouldn't
I don't want to recast. I want a mocap.
I wouldn't mind if they...
I'm all right with a mocap.
All right, I'm going to loophole this. Like, you'll think I'm chop rules with a Z the way I'm doing this now. Let's use Billy to performance... Billy Lord, not D. Williams, because that would be weird. But if we do Billy Lord and performance capture her for a hologram of Leia so that we can deliver expository dialogue somewhere in episode 9... from probably not a hologram, but a message that she's left somewhere.
Yeah.
Then we can have our cake and eat it. It's not really recasting. It's a bit of a cheat. We don't have to worry about the CGI being impenetrable. It can, because it's a hologram, it's a lot more forgiving. And then we can use her to deliver whatever dialogue ushers Leia out of the narrative. And then we can... We have it all, don't we, then? And that's not probably not going to happen.
And she doesn't have to die.
There is that.
Yeah, I mean, she...
because it smacks of the same thing we had with Han. When Han was dying on that bridge, I wasn't sitting there for the first time. It came later, but the first time I wasn't sitting there thinking, wow, this is amazing. I was thinking, oh, this is Harrison Ford wanting to be written out again. Oh, my God, like, it's not even a film anymore. It's just a reenactment of people's wishes in real life. And if I have to watch
7 is anyway.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, if I have to watch Princess Leia die in episode 8 or 9, it's going to be like, well, this is because she's died in real life. I don't want to be reminded of that. Yeah. I know it sounds selfish.
I don't want to be reminded like. Can they find a creative way to leave Leia out of a Star Wars movie, even if she's still out there?
Not if they keep writing off options.
Yeah, if they can't, then they don't deserve to be writers, do they? I mean, that's easy to do. We could do it. We could spend a couple of hours and do that now.
Yeah, but maybe they've cracked it. Maybe they've come up with a much better solution, and we'll all be blown away when this actually comes out.
What, like we were with 7?
Sorry, say again? You opened the window?
Yeah.
Yeah, and a massive tumbleweed came in.
All right. Ryan, thank you very much for your comment, and thank you very much for your kind comments on so many of our videos on the channel. It's greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
Stephen, would you like to take Stevens? No, hang on a minute. Rob, you did the first one.
Rob's got to do one yet.
Rob, would you like to do Stevens from Roku Depot?
Yeah, sure. So Stephen writes... There's the reasoning that Kylo feels troubled over killing his father, and that this will eventually lead to him turning on Snoke and maybe finding redemption for himself. However, what if this remorse over killing his father is simply the obstacle in Kylo's path to villainy? Just as The Force Awakens was a hero's journey for Rey and a villain's journey for Kylo, we could see that continue throughout the trilogy to the point that we see Kylo find out how to overcome his grief and use that to become more powerful, just as Snoke intended. This would lead to an ultimate showdown in the third film between Kylo and Rey, and possibly a four-way battle with Luke and Snoke thrown in. But regardless, I think it would be interesting to see Kylo's path to villainy continue rather than seeing him redeemed. We'll see all the good in him crushed and corrupted to the point of no return. It'll be something different, at least. So, do we think that Kylo would use his regret and grief to increase his power?
Yes, definitely. It's a very dark side thing, isn't it? I can easily see his grief and frustration his pain turn into anger.
Because he's not introspective at all, is he? He's completely off the wall.
I don't know if he's not. I don't know if I'd agree. I think that some of that stuff where he's talking to Vader's helmet in that on the padded room set in The Force Awakens was a little bit reflective of him, a little bit introspective. You know, he's definitely identifying with the pull to the light that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, but I don't think he's looking at himself thinking, actually, is this right? You know, he's not the kind of person that would actually go. Well, I guess unknowingly he would, like on the bridge, because he could see he was on the line for a minute. I'm not sure if he's. I don't know. I think he's quite weak-minded, isn't he?
Yeah.
As in, and the dark side's quite easy to keep hold of him at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, definitely because he is voluntarily trying to keep himself submerged in the dark side. It's not like that's coming easy to him, is it? Or he wouldn't be asking Anakin for help in doing so, you know. How can I keep being pulled back to the good? I need to stay dark.
What are you asking me for?
And you know what it's like when you are bad, and I've seen this on Twitter recently, when you are not a nice person.
He has, Rob, trust me.
You wonder why people don't see what they're like, and they just blankly refuse to be introspective, to look at themselves like some other people do, because it's bloody hard work when you're a horrible piece of work. To start that path of redemption, it's a long path, and some people just don't want to do it because it's a lot easier just to be nasty.
Yeah, I think sometimes what you're referring to, Steve, is definitely that individual was taking glee in the pain he was
suffering
causing
of
you.
Others.
Yeah, and that is a very specific pathology at work. There, it's a distinct lack of empathy. It's in the show chat, Rob. A couple of tweet images. Let's not mention any names on the pod.
No, that's fine. Absolutely not.
But yeah,
but it is hard. It's a lot easier to become bad than it is to become good.
Yeah, and
it takes no work to become bad. We've all got it in our nature. Sometimes I just feel like saying, "Oh, F everyone." Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's hard work to stay good.
Well, with regard to this character that we're seeing now, it's the appeal of this character of Kylo Ren, or Ben Solo, the very appeal of him to Snoke is that he's equal parts light and dark. So it's not like this paragon of virtue that we're identifying Rey as, or at least I'm identifying Rey as. He is this mixed creature that Snoke's been able to find and push towards the darkness. And Kylo's gotten on board with the idea, I'm going to be this bad guy. And he's trying to keep himself in the darkness. But all the while, he's being drawn. You know, he's balanced. He is like, he could well be our first truly balanced character in that he is equal parts dark and light.
Yeah.
He's like a Woolworths pick and mix bag. It's got strawberry creams and coffee swirls.
Dave, that reference is not going to land with everybody. That is not going to land with many people, Steve.
Sorry, Steve. Have you had some sort of breakdowns last time I saw you?
The Woolworths is all big in America. I think they still are. I don't think they went under there, did they?
I think so.
I have absolutely no idea.
Right. I'll be all right.
Rob, what do you make of this? What do you make of Stephen's question?
Not that one. No. It makes sense. I mean, you know, if you think of it like Kylo could be kind of, he's killed his father, and you know, we know in the novelization he talks about feeling weaker rather than stronger.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably a temporary feeling while everything kind of sinks in. But I think eventually what will happen is he will process what's happened, and he'll be probably quite grief-stricken, in which case actually he becomes more powerful because it's, you know, anger about
himself.
It's anger and it's suffering, and you know, we all know where that leads.
Yeah. Which it may well have been part of Snoke's design, yes?
Sure. I absolutely think it's possible. He seems like a long game kind of dude.
And this second part of Stephen's question, could Kylo remain the big bad throughout the trilogy? It speaks to what we've just been discussing from Dan Solo's question about are they likely to wrap it up in Last Jedi, or could we enjoy the evil villainy of Kylo Ren all the way through?
Yeah. We've got to have some stability in this trilogy.
If it's all over
even in
the
one
place.
episode, it's been all over the place, hasn't it? Sorry, Rob, take your words from your mouth.
I was going to kind of agree along similar lines to you. If it, if it's that was all over the place, if it carries on being all over the place, it's going to be hard to ground ourselves,
and it will seem contrived. That's the problem they're facing now. Like that real world mix. We're supposed to be in this because it's an enjoyable bit of escapism, and if it keeps bringing us back to the real world, it's going to lose its luster.
There is that. There's a certain argument to be made that that's why certain things you just don't want to see turn up in there.
Yeah, it's the myth.
Like Leia's death.
It still needs to be the myth.
Yeah.
I was really interested in something, the way Stephen worded it. Let me see if I can find it so that I can get it exactly right. So,
my Woolworths wording?
No, nothing to do with the Woolworths wording. So just as The Force Awakens was a hero's journey for Rey, it was a villain's journey for Kylo. I really like that. That these films are the Skywalker movies, and now we're watching a Skywalker go dark again, rather than watch one emerge into the light, emerge into power with Luke, and emerge into light. Now we're watching this guy who's breathing directly into their microphone.
So it's Vader.
It was a very winged
sorry.
It's this is like the villain's journey again, and that's an interesting concept to me, at least, and I would like to see that play out over the 3 films.
Definitely
Good stuff.
I'm now officially naked Steve once again, by the way,
Oh dear.
because it is 99 degrees
Oh,
in this house.
Kelvin.
No, Kelvin's not there.
Alive.
Kelvin's coming around later. So let's move on to a question from our friend Adam Sheldon. Do you want me to take this rather lengthy
This is a big one.
Yeah, this is a big one. And it's 3 parts, this one as well. All right. Hi to you all.
It's not even rude, Rob.
Hi to you all.
It's got 3 parts.
Just three questions for you to mull over, and in the new hope that they haven't been pondered over before.
See what you did there.
Very clever.
Do you think
explain that, or do you get it?
Do you think, no, maybe we'll break it down in the show notes for people who are dim-witted. Do you think Lando really had a choice before they arrived, just before you did in The Empire Strikes Back? Do you think Lando was told who he had to help set up a trap for, other than someone named Skywalker? So let's do these one at a time, shall we? So did Lando know the specifics of the trap that he was setting for Vader in Cloud City?
I'll go first because it's a quick answer. I think he did. I think he didn't look shocked when Han arrived, so I think he knew. He just didn't have a choice.
Okay, Rob.
Yeah, I think he's. I think he knew, but I think he says he didn't have a choice, and I believe him.
Yeah. I think that
one of those faces.
Yeah,
I believe
one of those moustaches. I absolutely believe that he had no choice. I don't know how far Vader would have gone with the details. I'm sure that Lando pieced everything together when the Falcon turned up, but I just think that Vader sort of said, "Do this, or I'm going to destroy everything." I don't know.
He went, what, in the world? Like, yes, in the world. I'll destroy everything.
In your world, you little capelet wearing mother.
There's not a lot in the world. It's a gas giant, wasn't it?
Yeah. So, yeah, I think I'm with you. I don't think he had a choice, but he certainly had a contingency. He had something up his sleeve, didn't he? Literally, with his little proto Apple Watch.
Hanky. Oh yeah, he did, didn't he?
Hanky, the other arm.
Yeah, he had a little watch that he called Lobot with, didn't he? So Paul.
That's
Bot.
amazing. Head of its time, or what?
Yeah,
it's a really impressive Bluetooth connection as well. It was miles away.
Yeah, lots of little boosters all around the corridors.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to part 2. So Maz's bar is obviously for those who oppose the Empire and the First Order, and she would know who's in her bar, being, let's say, loosely Force sensitive. So why did she not know that the stripy, dodgy bird and the slob of an alien was a spy? With the slob of the alien, he's talking about Bazine Natal. When I saw her immediately whisper to her companion, it stunk of a treacherous nature, and less than 20 seconds later she was reporting to the First Order. You think Maz would have a clue, wouldn't you? Do you think Maz would have or should have known what was going on with Bazine Natal? Or as I've worded it here, do you think she should have known that Bazine Natal was a git by feeling her through the Force?
I've got two problems with this.
Go on, let's have them both.
The first problem is, right, we've got the social media everywhere, and even though if you wanted to, put it out there that you needed to be home for 6 o'clock for a pizza, it would get lost somewhere along the line. And all of a sudden, they've got millions of planets in the whole galaxy, and everyone in the whole planet, in the whole galaxy, knows about BB-8 and all the rest of it. That it seems again really
space Twitter.
It is a bit. They haven't even got iPads. I mean, they don't know how do they know?
They put out.
So that's my first problem.
They put out an AP BB-8 on him.
Yeah, I see you did there. All persons.
Thank you. I'll be here all week.
Yeah.
Bulletin 8.
So I don't think, how did everyone know before? Yeah, you must have a room on one of these Star Destroyers where all they're doing is tweeting.
Well, there's something in the book. I don't know if you remember this, Rob, but 3PO is he is the Resistance version of that network where Leia says, find BB-8, and off he goes and he puts a call out to all the droids that are connected to the Resistance. And there's one of those also in Maz's bar. So he sends a message back, and it's 3PO that's doing all of that. We don't see it in the film. Yeah. And I think you'll find that Bazine Natal is a bounty hunter. And so if the First Order wanted an answer, they'd have contacted every bounty hunter. Like they have a little email list, and it goes out to everybody at the same time. So they all knew to be on the lookout. Because Bolatique knew, didn't he, when he turned up with the Guavian Death Gang and the Kanji Club, he knew that the First Order were looking for a BB unit. So clearly there'd been an email blast that had gone out to all the ne'er-do-wells, and they all had one eye out for this little droid.
Yeah. But I think part of it as well is it's worth keeping in mind that one of the things about Maz's bar is that she stays neutral, so nobody's allowed to fight in there. I reckon that's a two-way street. So she has to stay neutral in other affairs.
That's an excellent point.
In order to kind of, for people to respect her rules, she has to sort of lead by example.
Yeah.
So if she's saying, it's got to be neutral here, then she also has to say, and you know what, I'm going to do the same.
Absolutely. And there's also, the deal with these bounty hunters as well, even Boba Fett, the one that we all idolise, is that they work for the highest bidder. So Bazine Natal could be working for the Resistance next week.
Fett.
Yeah. Where? It's not like she's just like a bad guy. She could be doing work for the good guys at any point if they.
And they're all a bit
pay.
Aren't they all a bit shady? These characters.
Yeah. Well,
so if she started squealing up on them, they would go going back there.
Yeah. No, it's the wretched hive of scum and villainy thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because she's got to make a living.
Indeed.
She's got her Specsavers bill, which is huge.
It's huge. Those lenses not going to pay for themselves.
No, it's true.
All right, part 3 of Adam's question. We briefly touched on the subject during the recording of the Roundtable, which we did last week, on the dramatised Empire Strikes Back, and Luke's comment to Yoda saying, strange that Dagobah doesn't appear on any scopes. He couldn't get a signal out due to the densely thick fog. Yoda must have chosen Dagobah as his escape planet because he knew he couldn't be found after Order 66. Was Dagobah even in the Jedi records? This is a great question. And I believe it's extremely connected to the Force as a kind of medium to connect strongly with it.
If it's not in the archive, it doesn't exist.
Yeah. Is there something to that? Why the shotgun? Why the shotgun sound?
Because that old woman needs shooting.
Oh, I see.
So let's start. Let's go in order with the breakdown. So is Dagobah strong in the Force?
I reckon so.
Yeah, it's had Yoda living
in
on
Legend.
it for a
In
long
Legends,
time.
it used to be incredibly powerful.
Yeah, it definitely is, and that whole tree thing. I think there's going to be more to Dagobah in the stories that get told. Yeah, like a transformer, it is.
Yeah,
there was.
All right, Yoda.
Pretty sure it was a fixture in one of the last 3 episodes of the Clone Wars when Yoda had his vision. I think I've got this episode. Yoda had his vision and he met the Force priestesses. I'm pretty sure they go to Dagobah in that vision.
Aren't there those,
can't say exactly.
I'm thinking of Star Wars, aren't I? But aren't there planets that are alive? Or is that somewhere else?
Well,
we spoke about this. Like, there's these planets that are actually entities.
Not in Star Wars. I don't think so.
What am I thinking? Oh no, I'm thinking of Avengers. Oh my god.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
Guardians.
Yeah,
there's
Marvel.
Celestials, or
there's an argument to be made that the life force creates the energy field, doesn't it? So when Luke says that Dagobah is teeming with life, it could be that life is all rich with midichlorians, and so the force, the field of the force around these things is potent, and that's why Yoda's there, because he's a tiny little being who gets lost in the white noise of the force.
Midichlorians are basically a fossil fuel.
But I absolutely buy into the concept that Dagobah was removed from the Jedi archives. I absolutely buy into that.
Maybe it's a last vestige, a last refuge for Jedi, and they wanted to keep it that way. So that if all else fails, head to Dagobah.
I wonder if there could have been a temple there at some point as well, because you've got that tree that Luke went into, strong in the dark side. I wonder if there could be something to that. Is there anything you remember from Legends that might be useful, Rob?
Yeah, so in Legends, they had the origin of the Force tree kind of alluded to. I don't think it was directly explained. There's a long story behind it, but Luke finds a comlink type device on Dagobah I guess he's just rooting through Yoda's stuff. No, he finds it somewhere else, actually, and I think it tracks back to Dagobah or something like that. And he learns that it's a Dark Jedi who was on Dagobah, and actually him and this Dark Jedi and Yoda, I assume it's a bloke, I don't really know, I don't think it ever specifies. This Dark Jedi and Yoda have a huge fight over a course of days. You know, it's like a proper war of attrition. And Yoda comes out on top, but it leaves the planet's kind of damaged, and the tree is one of the things that gets sort of damaged in the fight.
Okay,
something like that. It's been a while. It's the Thrawn trilogy, the original Thrawn trilogy. It turns up in.
Well, in the Clone Wars animated series, there's he goes on a quest, Yoda, at the request of these priestesses, these Force priestesses. He goes off on like a little quest, and he goes off to find. I'm pretty sure he goes to Dagobah, and then he faces the dark side version of himself, and it's kind of almost a coming to terms with his place within the Force and the fact that there's as much dark in him as there is light. You know, all those sort of things. It bears rewatching, because I think there's plenty in there. Remember, Filoni studied at the feet of George Lucas, so he understands more about the Force than we do.
Yeah.
But there's plenty there, and I wonder if maybe that took place on Dagobah, maybe that left the scar, the kind of thing that you're referencing from Legends, Rob. Unless it was already there before, and Yoda just felt like the best place to hide from the dark side is right in its shadow, and maybe that's why he set himself up on Dagobah. To just shield himself inside that darkness.
Yeah, that's kind of what they imply, is that he's using it to mask his presence.
Yeah.
Well, also, is there the case that Dagobah is like a receiver of information because it's so strong and it amplifies all? That's why Yoda knows what's going on everywhere, because
could be, yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Well, we see Palpatine doing that in the post prequel era, when he takes over and he sets up shop in the Jedi Temple, because underneath that, I've mentioned this many times, but there's a Sith temple, And that's what he uses. He immerses himself in the dark side. And he becomes more powerful for it and gets a clearer vision through it. And perhaps Yoda's doing exactly the same thing. And instead of him hiding, instead of Palpatine or Sidious hiding in the shadows now, it's Sidious, the one at the top of the spire and in the bright light of Coruscant. And it's Yoda who's compelled to cower in the darkness, in the shadows, waiting for a chance to strike back. And that makes for a very interesting sort of dichotomy, doesn't it? An interesting juxtaposition between those two characters and how their roles have shifted over the course of just a few films. Great questions. And I also really like the idea that it will be a bit of both. You know, it's a bit of that spirituality and a bit of science, like Yoda going in and deleting Dagobah. After he's had his vision with the priestess, he's going in and deleting Dagobah in case, I need to know about this. And so there's a bit of science in there. Like the shock troops, the people doing the purge for Vader, they can't find him because that planet's off the map. But he's also hiding spiritually as well as physically. Great question. Adam's also put a little comment at the end of his email here. He says, I know I say it a lot in the TSW pages, but this is truly a wonderful group. The friendship, the respect, the Daily Kessel Run, the podcast, the Roundtable, TSW Comics and the Toy Box, etc., etc., etc. I've said it before that I admin several groups and have contributed in the past to websites and insider articles, but TSW VIP group is something special. You know who you are, and I thank you wholeheartedly for it. May the force be with you.
Nice comment,
Adam, what a generous and lovely thing to say. So thank you so much for your continued support and encouragement, sir. All right, with that said, we really have, we tore through that because we've got quite a lot to discuss in news. So sorry we didn't spend that much time in listener comms this week, but we've still got Connor's Corner to come, and we'll get to that immediately after our short break. If you'd like to support what we do here at Talk Star Wars, you can do so by becoming a TSW sponsor. For as little as £1 per month given securely via PayPal, you'll help us keep the lights on here at Talk Star Wars. When you become a TSW sponsor, we will automatically make you a TSW VIP. As a VIP, you'll get access to an exclusive stream of content that provides you with a daily podcast called the TSW Kessel Run, membership to the TSW VIP Facebook group, priority releases of shows such as the TSW Toy Box and TSW Comics. You'll also get priority access to the TSW Feature Com series and weekly Facebook Live and AMA sessions. There are also newsletters and a monthly prize draw. Head to talkstarwars.co.uk/support and become a TSW sponsor today, and the force will be with you always.
And we're back. So as you've just heard, you can find out more about the TSW VIP program at talkstarwars.co.uk/support. The list of benefits get bigger, it seems, every week. So one of the people who's done that is Connor. And as is customary, after we hear about the VIP program, it's time for Connor's Corner featuring Leo. Now this, to preface, is a question we fielded in some form before, but every episode is somebody's first. So we're going to, we can recover it. Because we can deal with that.
And we all want to.
So deal with that. Yeah? Not so smart now, are you? Anyway, moving on. Connor writes thusly. Hello there. I'm assuming that's how you want it pronounced.
I think so.
Yeah. My friends, first let me apologize for the lateness of my email this week. You probably already set up for recording. Sorry. Now, after another viewing of The Return of the Jedi this week, Leo and I have done the 6 films in the last 6 days. Good Lord. We got to the Jabba's palace scene where Luke kills the Rancor. Jabba loses it, tells our heroes their fate. Then Luke then goes on to say, should have bargained, Jabba. It's the last mistake you'll ever make.
Nice, Luke.
A threat. It's not. It's really not. It's not whiny enough. A threat, if I'm not mistaken. A trait that a Jedi should surely not be showing, especially one that is attuned to the light. I know after his force-choked entrance to Jabba's crib, then his declaration from the salvage gangplank, this is your last chance, free us or die, was Jabba so sure of these Jedi being almost extinct that this boy was no threat to him and his entourage. This boy ain't no killer. He's seen the mind trick work on his servant, Bib Fortuna. But the Jedi are no more, and the only side of the Force to fear is the dark side, and this boy ain't it. Or has Luke's flirting with the dark side started to consume him more than we know? Then much later, his realization that he'd gone further than he thought with his Vader-like hand. even when he visited Yoda, you don't want to get them mixed up. Even when he visited Yoda, he hinted that once you start down the dark path, forever will it dominate your destiny. You're flying too close to the wind, boy. I don't remember Yoda delivering that line, but okay. As he spat his tobacco into the urn. Bing. So the talk of the director of The Last Jedi taking Luke in a new direction, I'm paraphrasing here. Has Luke gone dark? Hope I got this to you on time. Your friends Connor and Leo. This email was brought to you by Hot Mail Services, the slowest and latest mail in the galaxy.
Yeah, just to colour in a little detail there for people, this email literally came in about 10 minutes before I did the Facebook Live tonight. So I didn't have time to break it down like I would normally do. So we're going to have to fly by the seat of our pantaloons on this one.
All right.
Okay. So
yeah.
I don't think... I'm not sure what the actual breakdown of this is, because Mark has forgotten to do a breakdown, which is really annoying.
Don't forget.
I didn't want to.
Couldn't be bothered.
I don't think
Jedi... was Luke... So the kind of the implication I got from the question was, is Luke just kind of trying his luck a little bit and sort of, playing on Jabba's hopeful ignorance? Or was he
up his own
down the dark
bit?
path?
No, I don't think so. I think he was up his own bum a bit because he thought, I'm a Jedi now, I'm wearing black and everything, right? So, but I think Jabba, like what Connor said, might have thought he was a bit force sensitive, but he never, Jedi are gone. And who's this kid think he is? And there's a lot of arrogance on Jabba's part. And he's very big and sweaty. And that's got to play a part of it.
I find that quite interesting because I'd never considered that before, that Jabba's overconfidence grows from the fact that the Jedi aren't around to keep peace anymore. I mean, they barely ever went to the Outer Rim anyway. Yeah. But he certainly doesn't have much to fear because the Empire are taking the Jedi down. So I think that he is overconfident, and I think he underestimates Luke, but I definitely think Luke's gone a little bit further down that dark path than I think even he realises at that point. And we're seeing it in subtle keys, like he's wearing all black and he enters with the hood up. It looks very much, his silhouette is very much like Vader's, and using the choky thing to get past the Gamorrean guard, and
crushy throat.
The crushy throat thing, and all the threats that he's throwing around. I think he's absolutely gone too far towards the dark at this point. And I think it's hubris and bravado. Like everything we saw from Anakin, like Obi-Wan warning him in the duel with Dooku, we'll take him together, and he said, "No, I'm taking him now." That's the kind of thing I think we're starting to see those notes here in Luke.
I think Luke just forgot the box of milk tray. That was his plan, to give Jabba the milk tray.
Swing through the window, and he's like,
and he was going to barter the milk tray for Han.
What is it with you? An old-fashioned confectionery this evening, Steve?
I don't know.
You're obsessed, man.
Who's going to know what milk tray is?
That'll be my answer to everything. Oh, lemon sherbet. Oh, no. Oh, aniseed twist. Oh, sorry. How did Han die? I thought you said Maynard's confectionery. Sorry.
Oh, you little Turkish delight, you.
Steve's jokes take all sorts.
Well played.
Hey.
Oh, dear.
What's your take, Rob?
I have another take on it, like an alternate take on it, which is that Luke has got the ability, because we've seen it in Empire, to get glimpses of the future. So maybe he's been refining those a touch. So when he's saying, free us or die, it's the last mistake you'll ever make, maybe he's got a vibe that something bad's going to happen to Jabba. He might not know what it involves, because he might be thinking, it's going to be me who's going to have to sort of dispatch him when it comes to it. But maybe he's got a vibe of something bad's going to happen to Jabba if it goes this way. It's just another kind of, another alternative take.
Do you think he would have seen that as being Leia?
I don't know. Maybe. Probably. I don't know. Possibly. I really don't know.
Because Jabba certainly didn't identify Leia as a threat at that point.
Well, that's all. The other possibility is that he sort of saw the additional arrogance of it's going to come from somebody right next to you, and you don't even know because you think, you know.
Yeah, you're watching me. And
yeah,
you're
exactly.
Thinking, I'm
you're
do this.
You're fascinated with the lightsaber.
Yeah, but really, you've got somebody quite deadly chained to you.
Yeah,
and of course Lando's there as well in the wings, right? So
exactly.
And in a way, that's kind of.
And how do you know the whole fleet isn't up in space? He might have had that bravado behind him as well.
I don't imagine they'd have the whole fleet.
No, the rebel fleet.
Yeah, no, but I don't imagine they'd have the whole fleet. They might have a ship, you know.
It doesn't
an additional ship.
It doesn't feel like at any point they sort of say, I'm here for the rebellion. I'm Jedi Knight, and you've got my friend. It's very much like a Western type thing, isn't it? I've come here to settle a score. It's not, I've got a huge army and you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they would have turned up. In fact, that's quite a good question. Why didn't they turn up with some? Why didn't they turn up in numbers? Why didn't they bring some rebellion?
Did they just have the Falcon? Do you think?
Yeah, well, the Falcon.
Maybe they're
and
getting
the
ready they're getting ready for the fight. You know, they're gathering the intel. Also, we know they need a lot of, hand sort of arm twisting in order to do stuff. The rebels, because
isn't there a large gap between Han being rescued and the build up to the fight though? Because Han's completely restored and stuff.
Over the Sarlacc pit? He's not completely. He's not completely restored. He's still blind.
No, that's what I mean. But the next scene is them all regrouping on Admiral Akbar's ship. I mean, there's got to be a month expired between then and then, isn't there?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, this is another one of those things where Star Wars doesn't do timelines very clearly, or the transition of time doesn't do it very clearly, does it? So it's a little bit hit and miss there. But I was just wondering now if I can turn this to my advantage and say that the fact that they didn't come with some sort of rebel force, even a small one, even like a little strike force like the one they use to infiltrate the bunker on Endor, they didn't. Is that part of Luke's bravado? Is that why he said, no, I'd do this on my own?
Maybe.
Yeah. It's a thing to explore, isn't it?
He's getting a little bit too cocky, and when he turns up on Dagobah again, he's like, oh, so I am a Jedi Knight. And Yoda has to sort of remind him that he really ain't. Not yet.
Yeah.
Paul's joined us.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir. How are
you? Sorry, guys.
That's all right, mate. You've had a lot on your plate.
My land speeder had a problem at Mos Eisley, and
oh no,
I couldn't find an engineer. Just some guy trying to sell me slaves and stuff.
Haven't you got Jawa mates who can sort you out?
No, they're on strike.
Oh, every 5 minutes with those guys.
Oh, it's the whole Brexit thing, and
ever since they joined the. Ever since they joined the Utini Union, that's a difficult thing to say.
They left the EUTD.
The Utini Union.
That's wonderful.
Paul, have you had a chance to read through Connor's Corner?
I have.
And what do you think, sir?
Seriously intrigued because I've never gone down that path before. Pardon the pun.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, for him to say those things is very threatening. He's delicate, but actually, no, he's not really. He's actually quietly menacing when he says it to him in the palace itself, isn't it? I mean, when he's standing on the end of the gangplank crying out loud, it's a bit of a last shout, last fight or flight shout from Luke's behalf. I can take that on board, but the whole scene in the palace is a little bit sinister. But you've all said before, wearing black, the choke holds as he walks down the thing, and so on and so forth. Was he taking something? So, and I always said no. It's just one of those things. But yeah. So I actually do like the idea. If the Last Jedi is going in this direction, that's tasty stuff. Really tasty stuff.
Absolutely.
Isn't it? Hello, Paul. By the way.
Yeah. Hi. You're from Holes.
Hello. Yes. Hello.
Sorry.
Isn't it supposed to show how far Luke's come as well?
It is, but also is the direction he's going correct? Because is he on his own? Is he training on his own? Because if you train on your own and you stumble across something that is not entirely What's the word I'm looking for?
Aren't we supposed to assume he's been back to Dagobah this time?
No, because it's all a bit, as Mark was just saying, I am a Jedi sort of thing. So I don't think from that point of view he has been back yet. And I think he might have been doing a bit of self-training from, Dummy's Guide or something like that. And he's discovering things about himself, but is he discovering the right things about himself? And maybe he does accidentally go down that path. So, yeah. Or he realizes, I'm going to be able to control this, but I'd like some of these dark powers, but I'm going to keep them on the good side.
Yeah,
so is he
exactly.
the first phrase, more or less,
That is it exactly, Paul. I think that has been my read of Return of the Jedi for a very long time. It's that Dooku paradox, I think, where they think, well, I'll dip into this dark power for a while, I'll use it for good, and then I'll put it down. But only the first hit is free, and then they start to get consumed by it.
You get tiny glimpses of, I don't actually care about being a bad guy, I'm just looking after my own self-interests.
Yeah.
So,
I postulated another theory, Paul. I don't know if you caught it, because I can't remember. I didn't seem like you came into the call.
I don't think I did, darling. Yeah.
No. I was saying that we've seen Luke in Empire start to have vague glimpses of the future and possible futures. So I was saying, what if he's got a sort of vibe that something bad's going to happen to Jabba if it goes down a certain path in the in his Choose Your Own Adventure book.
Yeah, it's not an overt threat, is it? It's
more if it gets to a certain page, it's like, it's not going to end well for you, mate.
When he's upside down and he drops R2 and the rocks and things like that, and he's like, I saw a
sitting in the clouds.
Yeah, sitting in the clouds and so on and so forth. And immediately his impatient side his impetuousness is like, I've got to do this. It's the right thing to do because bad stuff's coming. It's like, actually, no, what you might do, you're actually not thinking long term here, Luke, because you might create more bad stuff.
Yeah.
He doesn't think like that. So is it naivety and impetuousness that's, pulling him astray, for want of a better word?
Yeah, and overconfidence.
And
there is a bit of that, I think. There's certainly naivety.
Are we talking about Empire now?
Luke.
Yeah, I kind of am. Yeah,
I think Luke throughout the second part of his journey, the later Luke that we meet, I definitely think there's a little bit of hubris there. There's a little bit of naivete. So he's definitely thinking, I've got this, and now I'm going to go and I'm going to rescue the guy that's already rescued me twice.
Bit cocksure, yeah.
Yeah, and maybe
I never did like him.
There's a way to read that. There's a way to read that vision he has on Dagobah as well, where I can imagine Luke coming out of that vision and coming out of the events of Empire Strikes Back, thinking, when I faced the Sith Lord in the tree, and I saw my face in it, what I was actually seeing was, he's your father. That's the connection. It's genetic. But I think also what he was seeing there is a possible path for himself. Like, you take too many steps down this route and you're going to be inside that armor. Not literally.
Oh, that much is definitely
the Emperor made no bones of, I don't care if you take your father's side, did he?
So. No, that's exactly it. And when he sees in Jedi, when he's looking at his hand, after he's severed Vader's hand on Death Star 2, he looks at his hand and he thinks, you can always see the penny drop. That's what the vision meant. I'm becoming him. It's not that he's my father and I'm seeing myself in him. It's I'm becoming him. And it's the confidence, it's the overconfidence, it's the hubris, the bravado, the naivety, the ignorance, it's all of these things combined that take Luke down that way. He's using that darkness for the power he needs to get the results he needs to save his friends. But
so
I don't think he's capable of switching it on and off.
Is he going to make a mistake in The Last Jedi with a certain Rey is another question.
Possibly, unless he's cracked the code. If he's nailed it in the years since Return of the Jedi and he's found a way to get that balance right, that he can use those abilities.
The notion that it's uncrackable. The Jedi, the whole Force thing, there needs to be mystery to it. You get caught up in one side, you get caught up in the other side, but you can't tangibly control where you want to go. I like the idea of it being you're more of a slave to it than it could ever be a slave to you.
Also, not for nothing, but we have a case study of how Luke hasn't got that right. And he's running around the galaxy slashing stuff up.
Yeah, well, they've all screwed up. Really, haven't they? All of them.
Well, yeah. The point is, we've got a documented proof that Luke hasn't been able to crack the code in terms of training students that can't be tempted by evil.
Yeah, because you got the fall of Ben.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you've got the devastation of that school.
Well, every Jedi or Sith that we've seen brought to the fray has screwed up in some way or another, quite big.
Yeah, of course,
So,
and most of it comes from a place of well-meaning. But I like the idea now that we're talking about it, that Last Jedi Luke could be. Do you remember way back we heard that he's going to be like confused, almost a little bit mad, a bit like a bit like Yoda when we meet him in Empire.
A bit affected by everything.
Would it be interesting if that was motivated by his potentially believing that he came out of Return of the Jedi and thought, now I'm a Jedi. Now that I've succeeded and the Sith are gone and peace reigns throughout the galaxy. If he then thought, well, I got something right, and then perhaps he made the same mistake again, trying to take on too much, restarting the Jedi Order, and it all collapsed around him again. What if he's in self-imposed exile because he's completely confused about whether he's right or wrong, light or dark? What if he's completely lost and doesn't know if his next move is going to bring about the downfall of everything or if it is going to bring about balance? Could he be that lost in it? Because every time he thinks he makes the right move, Ben Solo falls. Or every time he thinks he makes the right move, he's gone a little bit too close to the dark side and he sees that mechanical hand and thinks, oh, I'm kind of doomed.
Yeah, maybe.
Could be an interesting colour for Luke.
Yeah, I think we've speculated on the idea that he might have been sort of there by choice and keeping himself out of the fray because he causes more trouble than he solves.
I've also been labouring under the idea that perhaps he's hiding there to just protect his knowledge because he needs a viable successor, somebody to pass his knowledge on to.
Yeah.
And he's sat out the events of the last 30 years because he's trying, or, the last 10 years, because we know from whatever bloodline, he's set out a certain period of time in isolation. And I was thinking it's for that reason. I'll stay here, I'm safe. My knowledge is safe, I'll pass it on. But what if he's staying there thinking, I just need to stay out of this because every time I make a move, it seems to go south. I don't know whether that corrupts Luke too much in our eyes because he is supposed to be a hero after all.
Yeah.
Steve, what's your position on that, on Luke on Arc 2? Why do you think he's there?
I don't know. I mean, I've listened to what you said and I agree, but I don't really know, to be honest. I was sitting there trying to work it out. Honestly, don't know.
You think in Jedi?
That's my position.
Do you think he went too far to the dark side in Jedi?
No, because we've been over this, haven't we? He went as close as he could and then passed the test.
Yeah,
I don't think he did at the beginning. Yeah. I think he was close at the end, far closer at the end than he was at the beginning. Far closer.
So do we recognise what Luke went through in Return of the Jedi as his trial? Is that his Jedi trial?
Yeah, and that's why he could never go back to being as close to the dark side again, which is why I don't think he'll do it in the latest trilogy.
That makes sense.
Because he's already passed it. We've said this, haven't we? He's already had his test, and it will be a bit of a rerun of the original trilogy if they did that.
Did he pass a Jedi trial or fail a Sith trial?
Oh.
Kind of a bit of both, isn't it?
Yeah, are they?
It's a certain point of view.
Is it binary enough to be two sides of a coin? Do you think?
Well,
because he was put.
Got a grey element in it.
Technically, he does face that Sith trial, doesn't he? He's in the room with two Sith Lords, and they're both saying,
surrounded by darkness, isn't he?
Me. You said it, Rob. Palpatine basically says to him, "Right, the gloves are off. I'll keep the winner." That's the Sith trial, isn't it?
Two men enter,
it's a complete
one
gauntlet thrown on the ground.
Unlimited power, round one. Ding, ding, ding. No, I like it. There's
seconds.
Let's get ready to rumble.
There's so much to unpack here. I can't wait until we do our audio commentary for Return of the Jedi.
Oh, we're going to be doing Palpatine.
It's going to be all over the place, isn't it?
It's corner. Lord.
I think there's scope for Luke staying on Arc 2 for most of Episode 8.
That's what they're going to do. That's the impression I get.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that we've seen images of him on the Canto Bight set in Dubrovnik. I'm pretty sure we saw some of that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, we saw stills of Mark Hamill walking along with what appeared to be a couple of red Imperial guards as well. Right? But whether they've gone to Ahch-To or not, who knows, sort of thing. But
yeah, I mean, that could be the Praetorian Guard that we're seeing so much about of late.
Yeah.
Please let there be some surprises.
Right.
Well, if you're not listening to Talk Star Wars, you're definitely in for some surprises. Yeah. But, well, Connor, that might have been something that we discussed before, but we got a lot of mileage out of it, and I thank you for it, even if it did come in super duper late.
Yes.
Like me.
Yeah, like Paul.
There you go, see?
If anything, Connor, you weren't as late as one of the hosts, so all is good.
I answered the question, for crying out loud.
Yes, you did. All right, should we move into some Star Wars news? Thanks, Connor. Thanks, Leo. Speak to you next week.
Thanks, Sean.
Star Wars news. Come on.
Star Wars news. There's a couple of bits this week, so
yeah.
I think we're going
to. They're not all good either.
No. It's been a pretty bad week for Star Wars this week. There's some chinks in its armor. So let's start with this horrible. Do you know it was perfectly fine until you?
But Rob said it.
Goodness me. All right, let's do some Star Wars news. So this week we got the coroner's report that revealed the cause of Carrie's passing. Among the many contributing factors, they cited sleep apnea, as well as telling us that Carrie had substances in her system at the time of her death. I found this to be quite a pity, this story, when I heard it this week, because of the problems that Carrie's had with addiction and substance abuse throughout her life. Not to mention her issues with her being bipolar and some mental illness. It just seems to be tragedy upon tragedy. And Billy Lord, who I'm growing ever more fond of, made a brief statement following the news, which I shall read for you now. My mum battled drug addiction and mental illness her entire life. She ultimately died of it. She was purposefully open in all of her work about the social stigma surrounding these diseases. She talked about the shame that torments people and their families confronted by these diseases. I know my mum. She'd want her death to encourage people to be open about their struggles, seek help, fight for government funding for mental health programs. Shame on those social stigmas. Shame and those social stigmas are the enemies of progress to solution and ultimately a cure. I think that says it all about what we should take from this. I mentioned this a couple of days ago in my daily podcast at Kessel Run about how I didn't harbour any negative thoughts about the fact that Carrie had substances in her system at the time of her passing. I just felt that it was deeply tragic and sad. Yeah. And I'm sure we can all agree that it's a struggle for somebody with addiction and not something to be taken lightly. So,
indeed.
What do you guys? How did you guys see this news earlier this week?
Yes, I did.
What was your take on it when it unfolded?
I thought it was unnecessary to post, frankly. I thought they should have asked. I thought they should have been required from the estate's permission, and I'm not entirely sure they went down that avenue. And if they did, and the family said okay, or the estate said okay, then fine. But I'm not entirely sure they did, and it's not up to Mr. and Mrs. Smith to decide or judge one way or another what somebody had in their system at the time of their death. Mm-hmm. Period. Especially when you're suffering, 30, 40 plus years of mental illness and chemical addiction, or whatever it may well be. It's got nothing to do with anybody else, and I think it's semi-irrelevant long term in the whole situation. The fact is, somebody lost somebody, and it's their business, and we're all required to move on unless we are invited into the situation. So, from my perspective, I found it a little vulgar to be told. Actually, but there you go. That's just me.
I think actually that's why I haven't gone into specifics. In the breakdown here, I felt that substances is more than enough. I found the detail, which was coming out in some reputable sites, and of course it's factual.
Oh yes, no holds barred, mate.
I just find it to be a touch vulgar and inappropriate. And that's why I decided to go with substances. I think that says it all. And I think that what Billy Lord has chosen to do with a statement here is refocus the energy of this piece on the positivity of using it as an example, using it as something to learn from. Carrie never shied away from her demons, and I think that all she did really was shine a light on them and identify a battle that needs to be fought in some way. And I'm sure everybody has to fight their own individual fight here.
I agree. I think it's. I think the trouble is we might find this abhorrent because we're a little bit older, but kids wouldn't find this unusual at all. Everyone's living their life like an open wound,
Yeah.
and that's the tragedy of the modern world. There's no privacy. There's no anything. That I would hate to be famous. Absolutely loathe it. I would hate it.
Oh yeah, me too. Me
Yeah.
I'd much.
Why am I not buying? I'm not buying into that completely, Rob.
Very wise.
You are struggling with sincerity in delivering that assertion.
I don't know what you mean.
I think, we live in a time of self-broadcast, don't we? And we are doing it as we speak. We're recording.
Well, no, but we're not talking about our own.
No, we're not.
Problems, are we? We're talking about fiction, which is fine.
Completely. But it is very,
yes,
very
I'm
easy.
naked, but that's got nothing to do with it.
It is very easy
But
now
he's got his own demons to battle, and
and we don't want to see them.
No, we let him battle those on his own time and his
either
privacy
of them.
time.
Hang on. Beep. Rob, you're really quiet.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no, you're better now.
Better now?
Ready?
Yeah, that's
Beep.
Stop doing time code, Steve. I'm not going to cut around that. So let's hope that this is the last of it now. I think that, we need to close the book on Carrie's story. And it's unfortunate that this is a postscript to the painful stuff that's already happened. But I do love the way Billy has reframed this for the world. It's the sort of spirit I think her mum showed, and it shows huge courage on their part. I do find it a bit of a pity that we had to be so graphic in breaking that down in the media, but at least we didn't go into detail here.
I'm not even going to read it. I'm with Paul.
On the other hand, I learned that I had something in common with Carrie Fisher, and I'll leave the listeners to figure out what that was of that bit.
Did she have a small PP as well?
Sure.
Not entirely appropriate. I preferred the cryptic version Rob just did.
Yeah, I think actually if anybody had a massive one, it would be Carrie.
She certainly had balls.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on then.
It's weird with that. Oh.
Let's move on to the Last Jedi news. Okay, this was kind of interesting this week. So Colin Trevorrow has asked Rian Johnson to film something for episode 9 during principal photography of The Last Jedi. Should we speculate what this is?
Post-credit scene for Infinity War Part 2. If we're going to speculate, go nuts.
That's really wide. That might be wider than I think it was an episode of The Wombles.
Poddington Peas, what about them?
An advert for Woolworths Pick and Mix, Steve?
Oh, I'll tell you what it might be. It might be a version of the old Let's All Go to the Lobby song, but with Star Wars characters.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. Why not, right?
Should we at some point try and put a finger on what it might actually be?
Haven't got a clue.
No?
There you go.
Logistically, I wonder whether or not they're just trying to bag some footage from Skellig Michael to save episode 9 having to go back. Because it's...
okay, yeah.
It
makes sense.
It's really quite difficult to get to Skellig, and I know that it's a national park, isn't it, Steve? Skellig Michael?
Yeah, for Ireland, isn't it? It's not part of the British...
but it's
British Empire, then that's the wrong word.
It's the UK. It's protected, and I think that they're starting to get more and more agitated with the amount of people.
It's bird breeding seasons, which is because it's pretty much all. There's always something going on there with birds, isn't there?
Puffins and things, isn't it? There?
Yeah, and you have to be careful.
And I know County Kerry has stood in for Skellig for The Last Jedi. So I wonder if a decision was made between the two productions to sort of pick up whatever they need from Skellig Michael whilst they're there. So we know that there's not much in the way of a script right now. So perhaps it's just plates so that they can use them and comp in whatever they need with Mark and Daisy on location in Kerry, but they can pick up some plate shots, some B-roll maybe of
Well, you just
Michael.
said the magic words. Is this principal photography or pickup? That's the thing.
For episode 9, it would be principal photography.
Episode 9, principal photography. So call it.
Yeah, because they haven't.
Oh, so hang on, I'm reading this
even...
wrong. He didn't ask Ryan Johnson to film something for episode 8 that he was chaining to episode 9. He asked him to film something for episode 9.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, he's getting footage for now. Most people are spinning this as he asked Ryan to shoot a scene for episode 9, but I don't think the script is that far along that they've got that material to hand. So I suspect that this is just pick up some plates for the...
Let's hope it's not Luke's death.
Yeah, I don't...
I think that would put somewhat of a damper on it. It's like, yeah, so episode 8, we got this film, and then he goes, can you film Luke snuffing it for 9, please?
Well, mate, if Luke was privy to it, which he, and Mark Hamill has alluded to the fact that he wasn't happy with the whole thing.
Episode 8, that's different.
Yeah, but he might also not be happy generally about the way his character's going in 9.
We need to consider something before these other outlets have got their minds running away with them. Before an actor can be asked to put together a performance for anything, they need to be able to see the script. They need to be able to read it from start to finish so they can sit down and work on what their character's arc is going to be. Then they do the character read, then they do the table read so they can get everyone together and they can work on their chemistry and they can work out what the cues are and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. Only then would you be able to say to someone, and this is what a director does, right? They'd be able to take Mark to one side and say, right, we're going to shoot this scene now and this is where you are in the story, so that he can walk him into the mindset he needs to be in for that particular section of the script and that particular development that Mark's done for Luke's story. None of that's been done at this point. None of that's been done. So you can't say to Mark and Daisy, we want you to just talk about whatever. It's because they haven't done the work to develop the characters. They don't know where their characters are going to be emotionally, what sort of headspace they're going to be in at that point. They don't know what the stakes are because they don't know what surrounds that moment in the script. So I don't think it's going to be anything character-based. I'm convinced that the production team for episode 9 asked the production team for The Last Jedi to pick up plenty of B-roll, plenty of material they can use as plates to comp in whatever they shoot in County Kerry and prevent them from having to go back to Skellig Michael later on. But everyone seems to have run away with it. It's like, no, they're shooting great big scenes down there. And Yoda was, no, it's not. Not yet. I can't believe that for a second.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
All right, well, we cracked
it.
You heard it here first. All right, let's move on to, we're getting to it. We're getting to the big story. But first, there's a 91-second IMAX trailer that's been rated by the BBFC. So when do we think we will see this trailer? It's definitely out there.
D23.
You think it's going to be D23, Rob, yeah?
Yeah.
What's D23?
D23
it's basically Disney's trade show.
Oh, yeah.
In a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah.
So this isn't a teaser, is it? This is a full-blown Scooby.
Don't know. Could be a second teaser.
How long's the teaser generally?
Well, the first teaser
one was quite long.
Yeah, it was 2 minutes and 12.
Really? So this isn't even as long as that? Holy cow!
No.
That's nothing.
Well,
but it's kind of.
I reckon it's the scene then, or something. One of the scenes.
No, this is definitely a trailer, so they won't want to give away like a whole scene or anything like that. And it's definitely going to be like a tone poem, like the first one was. It probably will be similar in tone and pace, and probably some of the material that we see in there will be repeats,
rehashes. Yeah.
I don't think, if this is going to be a second teaser, I don't think that they're going to show us too much of the plot or the narrative. It will be more along the lines of what we've seen. You think about the trailers that
like
we
a
saw
sizzle reel
for the first film, you know.
Are we ever going to get a full trailer before it comes out?
Oh yes, yeah, of course. But we're not. You know, usually trailers don't start until 6 months inside the release window, and we're getting Star Wars stuff way ahead of time, and it won't be until sort of October where we've had most of the trailers and the TV spots will start to hit, and then we start to see all of those little character pieces and things like that. So between now and then, we've got second teaser, theatrical trailer B, and then you'll start to get all the international variants and then TV spots, and that'll be the way that plays out. So this will be a teaser. And I think, Rob, you're probably right. D23, even though they tend not to lean too much on this sort of thing there as a reveal.
Yeah.
But they're probably going to want it now to cover up, to kick a bit of dust over this other story we're going to tackle.
Yeah.
Paul, what do you think? When are we going to see it?
Sooner than you think.
Sooner than you think.
Yeah, they spring these things on you. Because everyone's whisper. Oh my God! Did you know? You know, they'll do it sooner than you think.
It might make sense to
whets the palate, keeps you talking earlier, keeps you talking longer.
It does, and don't forget they can use them now to promote other things as well.
Indeed, sir.
We got Spider-Man coming out in July.
Yep.
And Disney have some interest in it, so it wouldn't surprise me if this trailer B or this IMAX trailer, this 91-second thing. Drops with the IMAX version of Spider-Man, because that will pull. I know people will access it online and in 4K and everything, but it will still pull people into the theaters if they get to see it on a big screen. So it might be part of the appeal. So could be it drops with Spider-Man in July, which is also around the time of D23. So
D23. What's the actual date? Oh, it's on sale
over the weekend of what, for D23, Rob?
So I'm just looking now.
It's over the weekend
21
of the 16th.
days away. 16th. So, I mean, it could be Spider-Man could be in theaters for a week, and then they could drop the trailer.
Yeah.
Because Spider-Man comes out on the 7th. So it could be that they run Spider-Man for the first week and then put the Star Wars trailer in just before.
Yeah.
You know, just
I mean, it
before
might not. Trailers are less and less a theatrical thing now, but it would be appealing for people if they're going to go, and if they want to stop Spider-Man's second week dropping off by huge amounts.
There you go.
There might be something that sweetens that pot a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're sort of constructing box office numbers, aren't they, really? Kind of cheeky, but... Okay. Anything you want to add to this speculation about trailers before we move on to the big story?
No. I may decide not to watch it.
What, the trailer? That would be interesting.
Only because I felt up. I know I'm in a Star Wars podcast and I have to obviously expose myself regularly.
Please.
But I don't want to. It always ruins the film a bit for me. So even if we talk about it, I can forget that because I have no brain. But if I watch something visual, I'll never forget it.
Yeah.
So I might actually go on a hiatus from trailers altogether.
You barely remember anything at the best of times.
It's all right. By the end of this episode, you'd forgotten
you said that last
animal,
week about
animal, vegetable, mineral, visual, smell. You don't remember bugger all.
You've insulted me before, and I can't remember what you said, but you did.
Boom.
No, you liked it. You liked it. You said, "Please do it again, sir. May I have another?"
Oh, did I? Okay. Then keep on.
Anyway, no.
Here we go. Right.
There's other news.
This is the big one. So let's get to the Han Solo, a Star Wars story news. So Lord and Miller.
Hang on.
Yes.
Go all the way back to the show notes.
Mm.
Right. And Rod Howard steps in to complete the movie.
You want me to cut that in, do you, Paul?
Yeah, something.
Your line.
Oh, I can get stuff, can I?
Your line of the day.
I sub in off my own back.
I think it might be my line you want to read.
Yeah.
So
He's like the guy in Hello Hello Club.
Yeah. He's been trying to put timestamps all over this episode. Right? So Han Solo news. Phil Lord and Chris Miller have left the Han Solo movie, so it's pretty much certain. I'm not sure that's fair. It's pretty much.
I don't know anything about them, but I thought I'd say something contentious.
It's pretty much certain that they were fired. Kathleen Kennedy.
Months in though, man. That's
I
crazy.
know. It's by all accounts about 75% complete principal photography, with pickups scheduled for later in the summer. But
something tells me there'll be a lot of them.
We'll get to that. So this is Kathy Kennedy's statement on the subject. So Phil Lord and Christopher Miller are talented filmmakers who have assembled an incredible cast and crew, and it's become clear that we have different creative visions on this film, and we've decided to part ways. A new director will be announced soon, like tomorrow. The directors Lord and Miller went on to release their own statement where they said, unfortunately, our vision and process weren't aligned with our partners on this project. We normally aren't fans of the phrase creative differences, but for once, this cliche is true. We are really proud of the amazing and world-class work of our cast and crew. So this was a huge shock.
Huge.
I woke up to this the other day, and the VIP group was already alive with chatter on the subject. What did you guys make of it when you heard the news this week?
Well, I could make a brooch, a hat, a scarf.
That joke. That joke's wafer thin.
Can I wade in first? Do you mind?
Go on, Steve.
Because I'll forget it otherwise, and I have something poignant to say.
Say it.
I think this is going to affect... firstly, my gut feeling tells me this is Disney wanting to stray a much safer path to bring in the box office, and they don't do. We learned they don't do risks well on 7, and I think that possibly that relate to Mark Hamill not being initially excited about the way his character was written, and that may change too. But I don't necessarily think they're bad at what they did. I think that they wanted to do something to make a name for themselves and to make it fantastic and to move off that line, and Disney didn't like it.
What's Mark Hamill got to do with this story?
Well, because he wasn't happy with his character arc, was he?
He's walked that back. So he's come out last week, I think, and said he spoke less eloquently than he should have. Yeah, and what he meant was that he was surprised at what Ryan Johnson had kind of gone for, because that wouldn't be the way he would. What
are we talking about? Ryan Johnson or Lord and Miller?
Anyway, well, no, 8.
Anyway,
8's fine, but this is 9, isn't it?
No. This is the Han Solo movie, Steve.
Oh, it's the Han Solo movie.
Go to sleep.
Oh, I'm going to shut up.
See, Stephen forgot.
Hang on 1 sec.
Stephen forgot what he was talking about as he was talking about it.
I know what that beep is. He's running out of batteries.
Someone plug him in.
Sorry, I had no idea.
Where's
this
the
is
socket?
why I shouldn't be on the Star Wars podcast.
Okay, well let's throw it over to Rob, and then
Hello.
Steve, you can collect your thoughts. Steve,
I don't think I've got any. I'm jet lagged.
Rob, what was your first reaction to this?
Do you know, I found myself initially, I was quite surprised, but then when I read into it and I realised how little there was left to do, I was a little bit less apprehensive.
Mm-hmm.
It seems from bits and pieces that are kind of gradually circulating that what seemed to be at the core of it was that Lucasfilm wanted an action movie with some comedy elements, and Lord and Miller wanted to make a comedy.
Yes, with some action elements.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
And that's the fundamental difference, it seems, between the two, is that they wanted to emphasize the comedy more heavily than Lucasfilm wanted.
Mm-hmm.
What puzzles me, they were working from a screenplay, yes?
They were. There is
which everybody would have bonded, yeah?
Yes, yeah.
Hang on. They're working to Lawrence Kasdan's screenplay,
yes.
I understand.
Mm-hmm.
And it was Lawrence Kasdan that apparently had the largest voice in this, which is why I'm dumbfounded as to this decision on from what I understand, literally the last week or 3 of principal photography, etc.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So what on earth is a new director going to offer to it anyway without a ton of reshoots? This is a really confusing situation.
It's
quite confusing.
It is quite confusing. I think something I heard said, I think it was on the Slash Filmcast, was that Lord and Miller really like to allow their cast the opportunity to improvise.
Yeah, a lot of improvisation.
That's the thing to keep in mind. With
the likes of Glover, you'll get it too.
Yeah, there's more than one way to put comedy in a film. It doesn't have to be dialogue. It can be facial expressions. It can be looks. It can be,
a spring noise.
It can be camera tricks. There's all sorts of ways to. There's all sorts of ways to make it to make something, to put a comedic spin on something without the dialogue itself lending it to that, and that's what I think is going on. I think they've taken the script and they've really kind of emphasized they've really kind of tried to go extra heavy on the comedy stuff, like the sideways glances, and that's the stuff the physical comedy,
the incidental stuff.
And it's stuff that I would think it's easy to pare down, because if you've got a sideways glance, you cut away from it, or you just cut early. That I'm sure is easy to circumvent, and that might be why that might be a reason why there isn't extensive reshoots required. We won't know that until July, based on the next piece of news.
Yeah, but they've got they've got some time. They also have the option, although we'd probably rather they didn't. They have the option of pushing it back if they find that they need a lot more than they were expecting.
But if it's that bad, they wouldn't have fired them unless for a few sideways glances. We've got to assume this is quite bad.
It's going to be a decent. A significant deviation from what was intended.
They've made it like a Mel Brooks film.
Here's someone's come in the desert.
That's the impression I've got, is that kind of level of comedy.
In which case, it's long past saving.
If there's any truth to that, then I would be relieved, because there should be a little bit more Star Wars than that in a movie. I think that some of this improvising thing is a problem for a writer, and certainly a writer who also happens to be the executive producer.
Yes.
Even if Lord and Miller sort of took, and I've heard this said elsewhere, 3 takes. They did one off the script, one for them, and one for the actors. And then you've got plenty of stuff to mix around in the pot, because the actors at this point will know their characters better than the writer, because they're bringing more to it than the writer. You can see that with Harrison Ford in the original Star Wars movies. That character isn't what George wrote. That character is what Harrison breathed life into. Yeah. So I think that there's probably room to say they wanted 60% Star Wars, 40% comedy, and they got the opposite from Lord and Miller. And then I suspect, Steve, to address your point about why fire them so late in the day, it wouldn't surprise me at all if Kathy went to them and said, we're very concerned about the tone of the film. We'd like to introduce another creative voice to see if we can get it back to
what we had in mind.
The initial vision.
More of the vision, What
we had in mind, exactly, Rob. And then this might have been what happened on Rogue One, and where Gareth Edwards said, yeah, sure, bring Tony Gilroy in. Let's see if we can bang this thing back into shape.
Yeah.
Lord and Miller would have said, not so much.
Not so keen, yeah.
Yeah, but this is what we brought us in for. This is who we are. And if that's not good, then perhaps we do need to go our separate ways. And they have got the clout to do that now. Lord and Miller are heavyweights in the industry, and they don't really need to kowtow to producers.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe Kathy read that wrong. Maybe she read who needed who more a little bit wrong. That's not right, because it's not, I think she underestimated what the power balance was, what the power dynamic was in their relationship. And perhaps
they've also just seen a Rogue One be extremely successful on a serious side.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Absolutely. I think that's definitely a factor.
And if we are to believe what was being said on the run up to the release of Rogue One, they dialed that back. So they might have gone too far with Rogue One, and they pulled it back to something that's more palatable to a wider audience.
I think though they are thinking actually everyone handled the seriousness really well, and this is really working for us.
Yeah.
And it's not, we said last week, I mentioned this on the Facebook Live before we started recording, there was what we mentioned in our show last week, episode 74, was comedy works really well when it's cut with drama. And if it's just joke, some of the pathos gets lost in there. And I think it would be nice if they had drama, joke. There's not a formula for it, but I offered Friends up as an example last week of when the comedy is cut with drama, it works really well, and that door swings both ways.
Would you approve of a format that was drama, chameleon?
I would. I don't know,
Rob.
If
get out.
I don't know if
I'm at home.
I don't know if a boy named George could pull that off.
Yeah.
What floor are you on, Rob?
Don't tell him, Rob.
Such a master builder.
Rob, stay still. His vision's based on movement. So
where'd you go?
This whole thing.
There's another possibility as well, which is, they're talking about there's creative differences. It's entirely possible they've been going along trying to put more comedy in the thing, and they've been sort of showing what they've got, and they've been constantly getting knocked back of, dial that back, don't do that, and don't do that. And when they came to them, like you say, if they came to them and said, we'd like to bring in another voice, they said, you know what? We're not having as much fun as we were hoping with this anymore anyway. So it kind of, they sort of part on mutually okay terms.
I read one story that said these two guys were completely blindsided by this early Monday morning.
Possibly. Really? Hard to say.
They were doing
I
things,
just said it.
They were doing things like
that. But...
Lando turns around and says, "Oh, we can make that Kessel Rung in 12 parsecs."
What is a parsec? Is it a mix between
it's like a parsnip.
Is it a root vegetable crossed with a unit of?
Oi, get your hands off my parsnip.
That's how fast Baldrick does it.
We're going to bring in to do the soundtrack. We're going to bring in Danny Elfman.
I love it when a show falls apart. So yes, there is a chance that they were completely blindsided by Lucasfilm's reaction to what they were producing, if they did feel that they were brought in to make a comedy, when really what they were asked to do was make a Star Wars film with a little more levity. And the word heist is being bounced around as well, and that doesn't always mean gags and slapstick and fart jokes. I can't imagine that doesn't fit in. I mean, we know it doesn't work in Star Wars because of everything Jar Jar did in Episode 1. So it's it might appeal. It might appeal to yeah, it would. I heard something today on a maybe we'll save it for after Dark Side. There was speculation just after this couple of press statements came out from Lucasfilm and Lord and Miller. There was speculation about who might step in to the director's chair.
Before we carry on with that, can I just add one point as well?
Yes.
Something that's worth keeping in mind is, especially in the creative space, sometimes you need to see something to know that it's not what you wanted.
Yes.
So they may have needed to get a certain amount of the way through to see a kind of a work print, which to then sort of see this is not the tone we wanted at all.
Yeah.
So it's while it is surprising that it happened so late in the day, it's not uncommon in any kind of large scale project development thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you think as well that they don't, it's not like, oh, we'll shoot all the Han stuff now up until week 3, and then week 3 to week 5 we're going to do Lando stuff. They're shooting plenty of bits and pieces, and it might take a while for things to coalesce and for the first inklings of an issue to start to become apparent, right, Rob? That's kind of that's the point you're making, is that the production schedule might not have revealed a difference in opinion on the tone.
Yeah, they would have been doing preliminary edits and might have seen this is not weaving together.
Yeah, I think it's probably like Kathy's seeing the rushes, and early on she might have been seeing, like the shots of them racing those pods at Forley Power Station, or she might have seen stuff on the Falcon that was shot in Future Ventura or whatever. And it's only when these things start to dovetail together that she'll think, oh, hang on a minute, I know that clip leads into that clip, and both of them are silly. Yeah. Where's the anchor? How are we supposed to invest in these characters? Mm-hmm. It's that's a little bit more of an insight, I think, into how the structure of a production can hide a multitude of sins until you're right. You got it in the edit bay, and then you start to see these things reveal themselves. Yeah. So early on this week, there was speculation about who might step in to take over the movie, and Ron Howard's name was attached from very early on, as was Joe Johnston's name, and I was speculating quite heavily that we might see Lawrence Kasdan take over. Because
I think there was a legal reason he couldn't do that.
There is...
it's a director's union situation or something, possibly.
I seem to recall reading something like that.
The DGA have rules in place that prevent a producer from removing a director from a project and taking over.
Right.
That would undoubtedly result in some sort of punitive measure being levelled at the production company, which wouldn't be Lucasfilm at this point. It would probably be like Red Cup Productions or whatever the shell company's name is. Mm-hmm. And they would have to pay a fine. This has happened historically at Lucasfilm, with George being fined over the opening structure of Empire Strikes Back, because the DGA and the WGA, the Writers Guild, insisted that George put credits at the front of the movie. You have to put the director and writer credits up front. And he said no. He wanted to preserve the look of the films, because that's what he'd set out for Star Wars. They let it pass for Star Wars. They dug in over Empire and said no. So he said he wouldn't change it. They fined both him and Irving Kershner. Lucas paid all the fines himself and then resigned from both guilds. Now, if that's all you have to do, then a powerhouse like Disney, behind a company like Lucasfilm, the president of which is Kathy Kennedy, whose husband is on the board at the DGA. Yeah, she's going to know. They could quite easily say, throw your worst at us. They'll just soak it up and keep moving forward. If it's $500,000, if it's $1 million fine for an amicable dissolution of their relationship with Lord and Miller and the placement of one of the executive producers in that post, surely it wouldn't go much further than a fine. It might mean that Kasdan would have to. This is all a moot point now, of course, but it might have meant that Kasdan would have to resign from the DGA. But that guy's been saying for a couple of years he wants to retire. This is the last thing he's got in him, so maybe that wouldn't have been such a hardship. But as it turns out, it wasn't Joe Johnston, Lawrence Kasdan to step into the role, but Ron Howard. We got that news today. So I'll read Lucasfilm's press conference and then we can react to the news. At Lucasfilm, this is from Kathy Kennedy, at Lucasfilm, we believe the highest goal of each film is to delight, carrying forward the spirit of the saga that George Lucas began 40 years ago. With that in mind, we're thrilled to announce that Ron Howard will step in to direct the untitled Han Solo film. We have a wonderful script, an incredible cast and crew, and an absolute commitment to make a great movie. So a nice, short and succinct statement there, and you can't really take much. Guys. Go on.
The Da Vinci Code.
Oh, no, that's
I've been trying to work that in for days.
Apollo 1138.
Oh, nice.
Thanks. So, Ron Howard is now a Star Wars director. What do we make of it?
Happy days.
At least 25% of a Star Wars film, anyway.
That's the thing. Who's going to get the credit?
Well, this is something else that has to be supervised by the DGA, and he is a DGA. He's a union director, so he is a part of the DGA. I think that Lord and Miller's departure seems amicable. This would all have been worked out in advance.
They would have had to release the credit.
I think they will release the credit, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And just the way Michael Arndt was let go from The Force Awakens, because this has happened before before the drama on Rogue One, Michael Arndt was writing Force Awakens and was let go. There was some scheduling issues cited as the issue there, but he left the project. He still had a credit on the movie. I think Lord and Miller will get something in there probably at the end in terms of thanks.
Yeah, like a special kind of thanks to thing. Yeah.
But I would think it would become a problem crediting Ron Howard if Lord and Miller dug in and said no. And then if it had turned into an ugly battle, it would have complicated things a lot. But I don't think Lord and Miller want to be cast in that light in Hollywood.
No, well, they've got a reputation for being quite fun, easygoing guys, right? Yeah. So that would be detrimental to their overall vibe.
Yeah.
Kill the vibe, man. Kill the vibe.
It would certainly kill the vibe.
Yeah.
Are we happy with Ron Howard? Can he do this?
Sure.
Don't know.
I mean, there's not a lot of jokes in Da Vinci Code, but
there is in Willow.
No, well, we know that's. Is there?
Yeah, Willow's
it's
very much.
With
yeah,
jokes.
but I mean, I'm not being rude, but look at Willow.
Right.
Aren't you a little short for Stormtrooper?
That wasn't in Willow, mate.
I know, but
it's very much in the
spirit. Tenuous link in there.
It's very much in the spirit of Star Wars, isn't it, Willow? That
yeah, it is.
And very much sort of a carbon
so
copy
Star
of
Trek.
Lord of the Rings.
Why not get Frakes to do it? I don't know. Anyway.
They've already had one Star Trek director come in. I think that'd be a pandemonium.
Pandabarium.
Yeah,
I think they should have got Gareth in.
Yeah, well, I think Gareth's shown that he's willing to make films the Lucasfilm way, hasn't he? So,
he's already handled a standalone as well. So,
and what's to say he won't do another? And this is something that struck me with the Ron Howard announcement was awful quick. Is he already in the loop on another film?
I don't necessarily think it's that. I think this is not. We've only just found out about it, but I suspect there's been discussions going on about it, and they've probably, maybe Lucasfilm sort of drew up a list of people they might be interested, like a short list of, if this doesn't work, because it's practical, isn't it, to have that sort of thing planned out where possible.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Obviously, you don't want it to. There's a tricky balance between planning for something you don't really want to happen and making it look like you've kind of engineering it to happen.
Contingency situation.
Yeah. I mean, so
I thought Howard was in pre-production on Pavarotti, though. I don't know.
Well, this
he looks nothing like him, though.
This won't go back in CGI. Performance capture. This won't go back before cameras until July 10. So presumably he's got time to complete whatever he's doing pre-production wise.
Have a butchers.
I mean, has he even heard of Star Wars?
Are they actually left now?
Oh, come on. I'm sure he's a fan.
Yeah, they're gone, mate. Yeah. Well, he was asked to direct Phantom Menace.
Really?
Yeah.
Not know that.
When George was kicking around the prequels before he decided to jump back in himself, he'd said to Ron Howard, "Would you think about doing one of these for me?"
Well, gee, golly gosh, George, it would be swell to do a Star Wars movie for you. But no.
But
you sound like Deputy Dog.
He was insisting on doing the omniscient narrator from Arrested Development all the way through it, and it.
There's always money in the banana stand.
Always. Now there was, Ron Howard and George Lucas go way back to 1972, 1973.
Yeah, they do.
American Graffiti. And way back then, Ron Howard was considering becoming a filmmaker. And he'd picked George's brain for all it was worth, And George kept saying, "Get into animation, don't do all actors. I know you're my actor, but I don't like you. I don't like having to deal with you. The camera and the film, that's where it all is." And so really then he just went through the George Lucas School of Filmmaking, basically, and they ended up working together on Willow, and then he's never really looked back, and he's done some incredible movies, Ron Howard, and they all do what they're supposed to do. I know a lot of people find the Da Vinci Code films a little bit slow, a little bit dissatisfying.
Kind of ploddy.
But that is what they're designed to do.
Adaptations of a book, aren't they? So they're perfect in that sense.
Yeah, for sure.
And not everything's going to be like the Fast and the Furious. It does.
Thank God.
Exactly.
I would watch his attempt at that though, for sure.
That would be good. Trying to direct Vin Diesel. Let's just hope Vin Diesel doesn't end up in Star Wars. So I think this he's been a student of George for a long time. I think he's probably as close to perfect for a Star Wars film as possible. I'm really surprised he's coming in to take over and just mop up such a small amount of principal photography. Because then, when they get what they intend to do in July is sit down and look at what they've got, see how it works, see what they need to get them back to where they initially hoped to be. Yeah. And I think he's going to have one hell of a schedule. And this is going to be Lucasfilm tied into the sort of the pickup schedule they had for Rogue One, I think, where they're going to be churning out scenes like nobody's business, and they'll be in post right up until release now, I think.
Quite possibly.
Any concerns about him being a part of it?
Not really.
No, I think whatever damage has been done, it can only get better now.
Yeah. I mean, there's a possibility. I wouldn't see it as a downside, but there's a possibility we might get Jason Bateman in the mix somewhere.
I'm wondering how. I was looking forward to something that was going to be quite left field. I think it might become a bit conservative all of a sudden. So we'll see.
And Van Diesel is awesome, Mark, and I'd love to see him in Star Wars. Don't ever say anything bad about him again.
No, you can have him in Avatar, and you can keep him.
He's awesome.
Vin Diesel?
Yeah, he's fantastic.
He's Groot.
He is.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And nobody else could play that character.
No, not like Vin.
Have you not seen the Pitch Black trilogy?
I've seen Pitch Black, and that's as far as I'd go.
Oh, my God.
Riddick's pretty good.
Riddick is amazing.
He's got proper geek cred as well. He's an old school
and
D&D
he's a really
player.
nice bloke as well. Shame on you, Marcus.
Whatever.
Who had the 22nd of June as the day me and Steve agreed on something?
Yeah. What's going on?
I'm just looking outside for cats and dogs. Massive.
Getting married.
Yeah.
I've got the blood-sucking lawyer on my side.
I think we're...
I resent that. I'm not even a lawyer.
We are almost at the end of our show notes. Is there anything we want to say about this drama that's unfolded on Han Solo this week? I think it's pretty much... They've done really well to sort of break this story open and then very, very quickly put it all back together.
Close it down.
With somebody that...
Let it go.
Seems reliable, is somebody that the fans have got confidence in. I think
I've got something to say.
Done a good job. Go for it. Nice.
And Woody Harrelson is a vegan.
Yes, he is. And that's a good segue, actually. So the last thing we're going to end on a brighter note. It's a tweet. No, it's not. It's Instagram that came out from Woody Harrelson's account on the 7th of June, which is this really charming picture of Woody and Donald Glover together in Spain, which I thought was kind of interesting. Cause,
well, if they were filming in Fuerteventura.
He's a good-looking cat, isn't he?
Canaries off the northern coast of Africa, right?
Still Spain,
Donald Glover.
Yeah, he's very striking.
It's a Spanish-speaking country, but they're not in Spain, right?
No, they're Spain. They're Spanish.
He's owning that Donald Duck.
The Canary Islands.
They are Spanish.
Yeah, they're Spanish, Mark.
It's not Spain, though.
No, but it's not Spain.
Well, no.
Northern Ireland's not Britain.
Falkland isn't England, is it?
But it's British.
Hawaii isn't America.
But
we can go on.
They're not in the Falkland
Hawaii
Islands.
is America.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Hawaii is in America.
Ah, Steve, you got it wrong. You tripped up and fell on your own face.
I'm agreeing with Paul. That never happens either. The Canary Islands are part of Spain.
I hope we don't agree on anything, Steve, because the world will just crack in two then. That'll be all three of us agree with you.
Why did you think it wasn't part of Spain?
Because it's not Spain.
No, it's not mainland Spain, but it's part of Spain.
Yes.
It's a funny thing about islands.
Yeah.
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 But Paul was right.
Gits.
Oh, okay. I mean, he's just paraphrasing an Instagram. So we're just in Spain. He's technically still is.
Yeah, or technically is wrong. But anyway,
the main reason... We're here with Donald Glover in Spanish.
I'm here with Donald Glover on Future Ventura. How hard is that? Just
No,
geotag it.
I get what you mean, Mark.
Depends how many characters you're allowed. There might have been
Mark
a connecting flight to Madrid. We have no idea.
It's entirely possible. They're in, they're on a break. They're on a break from shooting, and they've taken a little plane over to the mainland for some chilling.
It could be that.
Chillaxing.
Do you remember the good old days when I said, let's end this podcast on a high note? And
shut up, Mark.
And then it all caved in on itself.
I agree with everyone.
Beep. I should just end the episode there, shouldn't I?
That would be awesome, wouldn't it?
Anyway,
that's really cool.
This Instagram thing that we were talking about is Woody and Donald Glover, and Donald Glover is rocking the Lando tash.
Yeah, he really is.
It's even got the right shape, isn't it?
Yeah, and his look, it's just like all Lando, isn't it? I was trying to see if there was any sign of a beard there.
Oh, underneath his hand.
No, that's his hand.
Yeah, he has got a beard.
Got a beard under. It looks like there's a little bit of a beard there, right?
He's also got sideys.
Yes, he has.
He also looks stoned as a cricket.
I think that might be
Woody looks dead.
Woody looks perfectly
fine. Why is Woody
fine.
drooling?
Let's not take a saw to the branch we're sitting on.
No, but he's got Woody's eye has gone all gammy, and he's drooling. Look at it close up.
I'm not going to look at it again. I think we're just going to wrap this episode up. This week has been not a good week for Star Wars, between losing directors and continuity issues in comic books, and that's something for another podcast altogether.
Oh, okay.
And now Steve.
Which podcast might that be, Mark?
Well, there is a number of options. TSW, what's it called now? Comics might have been
Toy
one.
Box?
No, definitely not that.
That's the only one.
Whoa, stop.
Yes.
Can you go back to the beginning? If you guys had an audience with Lucas and each had one question,
yes,
what would it be and why? What came to mind?
Do you want to direct a Han Solo film? No.
Mine was how would your version of Episode 7 have opened?
Ooh.
Which was a really
cool, right?
Mine was, would you have let Han die?
And I wanted to know if his concept for the Sith was fully formed when he wrote that scene between Vader and Palpatine in Empire Strikes Back.
There you go.
What would yours be, Paul?
I'm still contemplating. I'll bring something very cool back next week.
To contemplate.
If you had an audience with Lucas and each had one question to ask about the franchise. You haven't told me why. You just said
why.
You didn't tell me what the question was. You told me what the question was, but not the why you're asking.
Well, because people write in with questions that we answer.
Yeah.
No, but he's asking what would the question be and why.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Well, my reasoning was that I would like to know if his.
That's all I want to know.
I want to know the answer to the question. I want to know how his version of Episode 7 would open, and I want to know because I want to know what the answer would be.
I think I'd like to know his true feelings about Episode 7 generally.
It's so nice to know that people have sat with us now for 2 hours listening to us, and we've gone right back to the start, and we're making the same mistakes again. Paul, do your own work and bring something back with you next week for that.
Yeah,
I told you.
You didn't tell us why. No, let's not go down that road again. Right,
because I'd like an answer to the question.
Yeah. Let's wrap this up. All right. Thank you for listening to Talk Star Wars again this week. Don't forget to leave us a 5-star review in iTunes and take advantage of our Ron Burgundy guarantee. Whatever you're writing there, one of us will read as long as it's clean. So if you want to promote something, a blog or a podcast, that's a place to do it. And you can email us your questions and comments to talkstarwarsinfo@gmail.com, or you can reach out to us on one of our many social platforms, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and many, many more. So with that said, gentlemen, where can people find you between episodes? Steve?
Twitter and YouTube on Wild About Nature and or Stephen_Ware. Stephen with a V, W-A-R-E.
Nicely done. Paul?
You'll find me on Twitter at Moves Gone News. You'll find me on the interweb on movesgonenews.com. And that's about it. Thank you.
Rob?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at RobWadeVision. I'm also the host of the Crazy Train podcast and the E14 Gamecast on emotionally14.com, which you can find about all of that at emotionally14.com and by searching YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook and Twitter for Emotionally14.
You is everywhere.
I know, right?
You'll find everything I do at talkstarwars.co.uk, and I'm on Twitter at talkstarwars. By the way, Rob, the toy box this month was absolutely sublime.
The one with Jason?
The one with Jason Smith. Really
good, right?
Fantastic episode, yeah. Really good.
Yeah,
That show's really come to become something quite special in a really short space of time. So nice work on that, mate. Really good stuff.
Well, you say that is mostly down to Mark, the other Mark, because he is some sort of wizard.
Wizard?
Wizard?
Yeah.
A wizard is never late for a bagging.
Beep. All right. Stick around for the Commonwealth promo, to which we shall be adding our new show, San Diego Sabres, as soon as we can. As soon as they get something over to us, we will plug them in. All right. Have a good week, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Talk Star Wars is a proud member of the Star Wars Commonwealth Podcast Network. Find us at StarWarsCommonwealth.com alongside
the Tumbling Saber Podcast,
the Generation X-Wing Podcast,
the TSW Roundtable,
the Skyhoppers Podcast,
and the Nerd Room Podcast.
Head to StarWarsCommonwealth.com and take your first steps into a larger world.
It's a wrap. It's a wrap.
Let's talk about Loot Crate. Are you on a quest for epic gear, housewares and collectibles? Loot Crate offers an epic range of pop culture items for less than $20 per month. Whether you're shopping for the geek in your life or you are that geek, Loot Crate is the best surprise you know is coming. Every month there's a different theme and new and exclusive items that you can only get with Loot Crate. Treat yourself every month or give the gift of geeking out to a friend or a loved one. You have until the 19th at 9 PM Pacific to subscribe and receive that month's crate, and when the cut-off happens, that's it, it's over. Make sure to head to lootcrate.com/TalkStarWars and enter the code TalkStarWars and save $3 off your new subscription today.